Hey everybody, Courtney here with Smitty's Fly Box, and we're just going to be going over the Dirty Lil Sculpin. It's just a little Woolhead Sculpin pattern. Been playing around with a little bit, excited to fish it this fall. It's got a great little profile to it. Let's go ahead and get started. So I've already got some .030 lead wrapped onto my hook here. It's about 17, 18 wraps there. You can play with that as you want. I highly recommend having some weight underneath the body there, otherwise this will just float. So a little bit of weight there. I've added a little bit of glue to the front and back end of that lead. And then I'm just going to start my thread here, just building up a little bit of a dam in front. And I'll just wrap back over and do a little dam at the back end of that lead. That glue will help secure that in as well. And I'm going to leave my thread hanging at the back of the fly to start all of our materials. The first, we'll anchor our wire just at the back of the fly. Again, leave your thread at the back. We're going to add in our underbelly, our dubbing. So this is, if you got the box, you got some olive ice dub and then also some tan scud dub. And so I'm doing the olive one here. So this is just that olive ice dub I'm going to be using. And I'm just going to build up a little bit of a taper for the underbelly, underbody of this fly. If you look at a real sculpin, they're a little lighter on the belly. And so I'm just going to have this lighter colored dubbing underneath our olive rabbit. Adds a nice little shine to the fly as well. Start building that little taper. Like I said, I do like to taper it. So we're going from thin to thick. The lead's going to help build that natural taper as we go. Just try to roll that ice dub on as tight as you can. A little wax will help too if you have some dubbing wax. It'll help roll that on nice and tight. And it is really easy to get too much here and make this fly really bulky. Just always remember where we don't have a cone or a bead to help us get this down, this lead body underneath is what's going to be our weight. And so if the more dubbing we use, the more buoyant the fly is going to be, the slower it's going to take to sink. So think thin to win on this. We'll just dub right here to the front of our lead. Okay, and now we're going to tie in our olive rabbit zonker. Okay, so I've got my olive zonker strip here. I'm going to take this from the hide and tie it in so the hair's flowing back towards the back of the fly. I'll anchor that hide right at the front of my lead. Kind of looks like a zonker style fly right now, which it is. It's basically just a zonker with a wool or dubbing head. I'm going to find a spot here to part this hair. You could get your hair wet and part it as well. But I'm just going to grab that part and then just kind of hold my thumb at the part there, my left thumb. And then as I'm pulling back on that rabbit strip with my left hand, I'm just going to wiggle that wire through. I'm going to push my index finger back against it to help keep that hide from rolling. I want to keep it right up on top. And then I'll just find me another part here to go through. You just keep working your way up, just evenly spacing this wire through. This will help obviously keep your rabbit in place. Just keep working that forward. If it rolls on you a little bit, you can just kind of move that rabbit strip as you need. And then I am putting quite a bit of pressure on that wire so it's biting down into the dubbing and my rabbit hide. I don't want it to be super loose. Just find one more part. I'll come around to the front. I'll tie that wire off. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tag on that wire, and I'll bend it back over and wrap over top of it. Just adds a little bit of security for that wire. Okay, so now we basically just have a zonker is what we've got. I'm going to trim my tail to size. I'm almost there. I usually like my tail to be about the length of the hook, so I don't have to cut much off this little strip here. Okay, and then I've got this red yarn I'm going to use on the underbelly of the fly. This acts as the gill pack for these little sculpin. I'm just going to tie this in so that yarn reaches to the point of the hook. I'm going to trim it, but just so I always have a consistent measurement, I just like to make it go to that hook point. Trim off my excess. I'll use that for the next one. And then I'll come in here and I'll cut about half of that off. There. If you take your thumb and just roll that yarn, it'll spread it out across the bottom of that dubbing as well. And there's our gill pack. And then I like to add a little bit of glue here just to help secure everything up. Okay, now we're ready for our dubbing head. I'm just going to add some thread here up to the eye and back. Just give me something for that dubbing to really bite into. Okay, so this is a little different if you've worked with wool. Old classic Woolhead Sculpin patterns will use real wool. We're going to use some dubbing on this one. A lot of new dubbings out there that work really great for this. In the box, we got you some Monster Bush fur dubbing from Nature's Spirit, which works really well. It comes in a lot of good colors. It's super spiky and buggy. I really like this stuff for dubbing heads or collars, anything like that. It just looks really good. And leeches too. It works really good for a leech body as well. What I'm going to do is grab a clump. It's not a big clump. You kind of see that against my fingers there. Just spread out a clump, you know, just about the width of your hand or so. And notice there's not a lot of mass in there. So I'm spreading it out. You can see through it. What I am going to do is stack it. So what I mean by that is I'm just going to clump it together now and just start preening it. I'm trying to get the fibers all the way one direction if I can, and also to get them all to be the same desired length. So trying to just limit the excess that I'm going to have there. So once you have the amount that you want, go ahead and just stack all this together, and it gets it laying all the same direction. And then I'm going to lay it back out across my fingers. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull my bobbin down, give myself some thread to work with, and then I'm going to take this dubbing now and just roll it around the hook. So it's all the way around the bottom, around the top and sides. And then if you spin your bobbin counterclockwise, that'll help to make that thread roll back to the fly instead of forward off the eye. I'm going to do a loose wrap, one more loose wrap, and then I'll pull down tight here. Anchor that dubbing down. 3, 4 good wraps. Shouldn't have a ton of excess at this point, but I am going to have a little bit. So I'm going to pull out any of the free stuff. And then I'll find the front of that dubbing. I'll bring it back. I'm going to wrap right in front of that dubbing now. Just build up a little bit of a thread dam. That'll get that dubbing laying back. I kind of want somewhat of a hollow look to this fly because I want that dubbing to push water. I don't want the dubbing to be laying back. So when you look at this fly, it's going to be bulky on the head, but what that's doing is it's allowing that kind of that airy look to that fly. So when it's actually in the water, it's moving and pushing water around rather than just having a big flat dubbing head on there. So you do want a little bit of buoyancy or air to that fly. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So I've done the same thing I did on the back half. And take this time though, I'm not going to tie right in the middle. I'm going to try to grab the ends that are facing back towards my left. So I have more hanging out the front than I do the back. And again, I'll do a loose wrap here. Bind that dubbing down. Pull out any excess you got. And now, again, I'm going to find that hook eye. Push everything back. And you're going to have a little bit of a space here to build up a little bit of what I would call, I guess, the nose or the little mouth of the fly. And that's what you want. You don't want to have this rushed right to the head or the eye of the hook. So that allows me to wrap back into this dubbing just a little bit so it lays back. Okay, I don't want it standing up, and I don't want it to be like flat either. So you got to have that kind of happy medium spot where there's just a little bit of a buoyancy or some airflow through that dubbing. So I'm just going to carefully wrap back on top and get it to where it's laying so it looks like more of a sculpin head there. Okay, and then I'll just bring my thread to the front. And then I'm going to take a little dubbing brush. We're going to trim all this, but I'm just going to take my dubbing brush and tease a lot of these fibers out. And then I'll come back one more time and I'm just grabbing right at the very front of that dubbing. Just ever so lightly wrapping back on it. I think that'll work for us. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is just pull a lot of that out to the side. So we're going to trim it now. So what I'm going to do is trim the bottom first. I'm just going to come in flat with my scissors and trim out the bottom section. So if you look at a Sculpin's head, they have really flat heads. And so I'm just going to trim that out. You can see that gill pack. And then on the sides, I'm just going to angle my scissors coming across the eye there and just angle back. Give it a little haircut. Okay, and then you can take your thumb and just kind of mash everything together. Just press it. We want that laying flat. So you want it flat on top, wide on the sides is what we're looking for. That's the profile that I'm trying to achieve. Just kind of keep doctoring some of these up. Okay, now we're going to put our eyes on. This is probably the trickiest part of the whole fly, really. I'm going to go ahead and whip finish. Now you could use anything here. You could use your super glue for this, or you could use UV glue. I'm going to show you just how to do the UV glue, but again, same concept applies if you've got super glue as well. So I'm just going to take some Loon Flow. I'm just going to drop some here. So if a Sculpin, look at a Sculpin, their eyes don't sit on the sides of their head, they're up on top. So I'm just going to drop a little drop here, just kind of up on these little spots here where I think those Sculpin eyes would be. I'll just drop that first eye in. Drop the second eye in. So it looks something like that. I'm just going to hold it back. I do the same thing with the super glue as well. UV is just a little nicer because you don't have to worry about getting glue all over your fingers. And we'll just zap those on. And that'll hold that profile nice for you. So you get that nice underbelly that's flat, flat on top. Got a few little whiskers sticking out the side here, not too big of a deal though. But you get just a nice profile of a Sculpin head. Swims really good in the water too, looks awesome, and it's gonna be a good one for the fall. So twist up a few, tie them up, let us know how you think, and enjoy.